There's something I want to read out to you while you gaze at this multiple images. Using children to promote UN projects has by now become standard operational procedure. It has the double advantage of appealing to the parental and protective instincts of adults, while at the same time it has a profound influence on the attitudes of the children themselves who participate. This is all there in your class notes. For instance, in 1960, UNICEF distributed a promotional folder designed for children entitled How Children Help Children Through UNICEF. Through UNICEF. They're incapable of helping each other just by themselves. The back page, illustrated with crude drawings of a cow, a truck, and a child, read, Many children in Italy call a cow UNICEF because they never tasted milk before UNICEF came. Many children in Brazil think the American word for truck is UNICEF. And in the hills near Galilee, one little boy said, My father says in heaven there is God, here there is UNICEF. This is the kind of calculated tug on the heartstrings that loosens the purse strings. Tattered and starving children peer at us from billboards. Baseball stars and movie celebrities urge us over radio and TV to give generously, and professional organizers appear in each community to excite an uncritical emotion of compassion. Community leaders are maneuvered into endorsing a project they do not understand, and an organization whose budget they are never permitted to see ditto. And then ordinary housewives, enthusiastic because they are sincere, march from home to home ringing doorbells. But if the person who is being solicited questions the noble cause in any way, those volunteers are apt to be miffed and feel insulted. After all, they know that their own motives are beyond reproach, and since they have already indentured themselves emotionally with the cause, they cannot help but react with horror when they find someone so cruel and selfish as to ask questions when tiny children are starving. The examples are endless. In 1951, the US National Citizens Committee of UN Day distributed over 30,000 copies of entitled A Useful Teacher's Guide Planning for United Nations Day. This was 1951. And over 1.3 other pieces of literature were mailed out. Over 50,000 kits containing materials and instructions to make hand-sewn UN flags were distributed, and over 500,000 women and girls across the nation participated in the project. United Nations propaganda is even in the comic books. For instance, the inside cover of a recent issue of Superman contains an illustrated tale of how the UN World Health Organization came to the rescue and saved a small Burmese village from the bubonic plague. At the end of the story, we find, this is your United Nations at work. When you celebrate UN Day on October 24th, be proud your country is a member nation. Through the UN, our nation is working with other nations for better health and happiness for people the world over. You have to applaud all this. I mean, you really have to. For 70 years, these people have been propagandizing with the greatest expertise, the greatest sophistication, and they have fooled thousands and thousands of administrators year after year. How has it been done? Just look at this. Not long after, this face was accompanied by another face, screaming and howling, having a tantrum. In this case, she went completely theatrical on the world stage. So, how does this happen? What do you think?
Moreover, sir, you know how people applauded the fact that she's left school for the climate change? Doesn't this show the privilege, the white privilege that she has? We don't even have the privilege of having all our children go to school, and she's leaving school to talk about an issue she has done nothing about. She's just come out with a book. Isn't that wastage of paper that she's against?
The stories about the exposes are legion, but the thing is, I want you to think about how does this all happen in such a sophisticated way and achieve the success it does? Because I abhor the success that it achieves, but it's there.
If you have observed, their role models are always like the people they project. They are either women, they are victims, or they are children. So that you can't completely go against them. And if you go in the replies and all, you'll find these woke people, bashing you. How can you be, so rude to a child, or how can you be this? So they are playing it very smartly.
So, this your point about either women or children. You remember what I said about UN Women, that UN UN Agency for Women. So, what we're seeing, certainly what I have been seeing on the sidelines of all this work with UNESCO, etc., is that this is, I think this is certainly visible. It's not invisible. It's visible. It's upfront. It can be seen. It can be deduced. One is able to understand the implications. That there are UN agencies, and I would have to say UNICEF is at the forefront, whose stated agenda hides another agenda uh, amongst other hidden agendas. And this particular hidden agenda is, in fact, relating, I think, in a way to what was being discussed before the tea break, which completely foxed my brain, which has to do with the attack, the concerted attack on the family unit and household. Split them apart, split apart parents from each other by, in the first place, saying that women are the vulnerable gender, man is the oppressive gender. Having split them apart, then invent several other genders to fill in the gap. And while doing that, remove the child from the household, the protection of the household, the protection of the extra household, that is any larger household unit, which would be a joint family if it still exists, elders or anybody else, and turn the child into an autonomous unit to be controlled by the agents of one of the UN agencies using its tactics and methods. And I would say that this is the inescapable conclusion I have certainly come to. In all the countries in which the Greta iconography made an impact, some kind of measurable impact, and the impact was being measured by agencies whom we don't know, and transported back to UNFCCC. They started looking for youth ambassadors in states, but not in every state and not in every kind of state, in states where it would make a political difference. That means in states of that country where it would make a
Lispria Kangujam.
Lispria, correct.
Manipur.
Manipur is she?
Manipur.
Now everyone knows that the northeastern states are politically and socially sensitive regions. So this is what I'm trying to point out to you, and this has happened in a number of other countries. In a number of other countries, by 2022, there were the equivalent of this Lispria, whatever her surname is, who were all became in the cohort of global followers of Greta, who were also getting attention by themselves. What does this tell you? This told me that the UN agencies are so venal that they will continue to use the same tactics and same methods for which they were already exposed half a century and more ago. But because these tactics and methods have been so effective and continue to be, they will continue to use them. So we are dealing with a system that is, in its treatment of people, is been shown to be monstrous. And yet our administrations are falling over each other to work with them. So this is what I'm saying is our major, this is the problem that we face.